As an animal behavior expert, I'm often asked what one piece of advice I would like every dog guardian to know. And there is actually one thing that I wish everybody knew about dog training because dog training isn't regulated. And that means, unfortunately, some dog trainers use methods that are outdated and that have risks for dogs' welfare. So I'm going to tell you about that piece of advice and also give you some tips on how to make the most of using it. So, the thing that I wish everybody knew about dog training is that you should use food to train your dog. Outdated methods of dog training are aversive methods and they have risks for dogs' welfare, which include the risks of increased fear, anxiety, aggression, stress, and a worse relationship with you as their guardian and pessimism as well. And we can avoid all of those risks simply by using reward-based training methods. Basically, that means using food to train your dog. And there are two ways in which we do this. One of them is to use food when we're using positive reinforcement. What this means is that when your dog does a behavior that you want to see more of, you give them a little piece of food in order to reinforce that behavior, and that makes them more likely to do that behavior in future. And positive reinforcement is a really effective way to change your dog's behavior and to teach them what you would like them to do instead of just focusing on the things that you don't want them to do. So it works really, really well. And of course, dogs need practice. So when we're doing this, we're often going to pick tiny treats or really quite small treats, depending, of course, on the size of the dog. But you might be going to get through a lot of treats in one particular session. And we're also going to take into account the behavior that we're teaching because there are a few behaviors. One of them would be coming when called. And it's actually really quite difficult for the dog because often there are lots of other things going on and you really want to motivate your dog to come to you. So for coming when called, we're going to use a bigger treat. We're not going to use tiny treats for that. We're going to use really great, amazing treats. So a big dog treat, a nice piece of something wonderful, like even a sardine or something like that, that your dog is really always going to want to come for. You could, if you wanted to, use play or petting sometimes as positive reinforcement. There are times when that works really well, so that's okay too. And I think all trainers who would use those, they're also happy to use food in training. The other way in which we tend to use food in training is something called classical conditioning. And this is especially for dogs who are fearful or reactive. And it's a way that we can use food to help them to learn to like something that they're previously frightened of or scared of. Or even if we're just introducing something new to them and we want to make sure that we make a really good first impression, then we can use food to do that. And when we're doing classical conditioning, we tend to use bigger pieces of food. We tend to use human food, so things like pieces of steak or cheese or chicken, something that your dog is going to really, really love, and that will be a nice surprise for them. And what we're going to do is use it to teach them that whenever the thing happens that they were previously scared of, it actually predicts all this wonderful food and a wonderful surprise. And over time, that will help them to learn to really like that thing and not be afraid of it anymore. So those are the two main ways in which we use it in dog training. And one of the things I like about this, if you're quizzing a dog trainer on the methods that they use, you can tell if they're using food because you can see them using food. And like I said, dog training is not regulated. And so some dog trainers use a lot of euphemisms to describe the training methods that they use. And so that can make it really hard to tell if they're using up-to-date methods. But if you know that they should be using food, that helps you to avoid those outdated methods because you can actually see if food is being used. So one of the things that we have to think about with this, obviously, if you're using treats, you have to think about how are you going to store them. It's something that you have to plan for in advance. So some people just like to put a few treats in a baggie in their pocket when they go on a dog walk. Some people like to have a bait bag, which is just a little dog trainer's pouch that you can use and you can clip it around your waist or you can attach it to your belt if you like. In your home, you might actually like to have like a cookie jar just for the dog so that you can run and get a treat. If they do something that you like and you want them to do again, you can run and get a treat to give them. So that's one of the things that you have to think about if you're using positive reinforcement to train your dog. Another thing that you'll want to think about is to have a training plan. So What this means is that you're going to think about the stages in which you're going to teach the behavior to your dog. So you're going to think about what they can do now, what it is that you actually want to train them to do, and then think of little stages along the way so that you can follow a training plan. And for more complicated behaviors, or if you're finding this difficult, just ask a good dog trainer to help. They will be able to give you a training plan, work through a training plan with you. A good dog trainer is always going to be following a plan when they're working with your dog, but it helps you not to go too fast because sometimes people expect dogs to get things really quickly and actually they need practice. And if you're new to training, probably you need some practice too. It's like it's a technical skill, so it's something that all of us can get better at. And one of those skills that you can practice is timing. So when you're using positive reinforcement to teach your dog to do a behavior, as soon as they do the thing that you want them to do, make sure that you give them a treat and be really quick in that. Don't be slow about it. So that's something that you can practice when you're working on positive reinforcement with your dog. And if instead you're doing the classical conditioning and you're using food to teach your dog to love something, again, the timing is important because you want to make sure that the thing that they are scared of happens at a safe distance so they're not actually scared. It's not meant to be a frightening experience. You want to tone it down, so be a long way away from whatever it is. But when it happens, it's after that that you give the treat because you want that thing that they think of as scary to be the thing that predicts the treats, and that's what will teach them to actually realize that this is something to love instead. So those are some of the things that you need to think about when you're using food, and it's worth knowing and learning more about it. And if you want to learn more about dog training, you actually can check out my book, Bark, The Science of Helping Your Anxious, Fearful or Reactive Dog, because it's not just for people with a fearful or reactive dog. It actually has lots of dog training tips that are useful for anyone with any kind of dog as well. So you'll find some tips in there. And just imagine if everybody knew that you should use food to train dogs. It would be really good for dogs because it's good for your relationship with your dog. It's good for the dog. It turns training into a really fun, enriching experience for the dog. And it works so well. It's really effective. Whereas if people use outdated training methods like shock and prong collars and leash corrections, they basically rely on fear and pain to work, and they have those risks, fear, anxiety, aggression, and so on. So the world would be a much better place for dogs if we all knew to use food in dog training. So I hope that helps you. If you are not already using food in training, find someone who can help you learn how to do so. And even if you are, there are always ways in which you can improve your technique, or classes you can take and sports that you can try and fun activities that you can do with your dog to help improve your relationship with your dog.